Hey everyone, it's Tamara Monosoff, and I'm the author of the Mom Inventor's Handbook and the founder of TamaraMonosoff.com, which is my training and mentoring website. Thanks so much for joining me today. I am using a new technology today called Webinar Jam, so bear with me as I'm trying to figure things out. I do have a chat box on the right hand, which you should be seeing on your screen. And so if you could, just when you arrive, put a little hello and let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me. And so I want to make sure that, that everything is working properly. So let me just click over here and see. Oh, great. Hi, Amy, Jessica, Lori, Melody. I'm so glad you're here. Could you send me a chat and let me know that you can hear me and see me? That would be really helpful. And there's a little box you just have to type into it and then hit the post button. Lori, hi. Great, Lori. It's working for you. Amy, fantastic. Okay, wonderful. Keep on going. Let's see. I want it to be working for everyone. Jessica, Melody, how about for you? Can you type into the chat box? As I mentioned, I'm using a new technology, so I'm like wringing my hands. We're trying something new. I usually use GoToWebinar, and this time I am trying this new system called Webinar Jam. So I've been studying, and hopefully it's working. Oh, good. Lori says yes. Jessica, great. Fantastic. Okay, well, look, let's go ahead and get started. And essentially what today is all about is questions and answers. I know everyone is at a different stage, and whether you're at the very beginning stage and you have an idea and you're trying to figure out if it makes sense to go forward with it, or if you're right in the prototyping stage or the manufacturing stage, no matter where you are in the process, I know that we often hit challenges and roadblocks and struggles along the way, which is just a normal part of the journey. And my hope today is that I can hopefully, I'm going to shed a little bit of light on some of the different areas of the product development process, and then we'll open it up for questions, answers. I'm really looking forward to this session and jumping in and hopefully helping you unstick wherever you are in the process. And what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to go through some slides at the beginning. I am going to tell you about the bonus you're going to get by participating. I'm going to tell you about the Power Mentoring Self-Paced program. You don't need to buy anything today. I just am going to tell you about it, and then open it up to your questions and answers, and then hopefully I'll be able to spend a lot of time, as much time as necessary, to get your burning questions answered. So what I'm going to do is take a big risk and switch off the camera and switch over to some slide presentations, and hopefully what I need to hear from you is that you can see the slides. So bear with me as I make this shift. This is the part that was kind of hanging me up last night. So I'm just going to ask you now, can you see, can you just send me a quick chat? Are you able to see just by what I did? Are you seeing a slide of where it says welcome? It's a picture of me in a pink shirt. Can you see that? Say yes, I see slides. Do you see that? Hi, Shay. Okay, great. Can you see the slides, everyone? I'm hoping you're able to do that. Whoops, no. Okay, I'm going to have to try something different. Like I said, this is a learning experience for me too. Okay, now I'm going to try this. Aha, did that work? Can you see the slides now? I'm hoping the answer is yes. No slides? Okay, Karen. Hi, Karen. Okay, now can you see it? I know there's a bit of the delay. You still can't see the slides. Okay, let me see here. It should kick in here. You should see a slide that just says welcome in green from me. Now can you see it? Fingers and toes crossed, everyone. Yes! Oh my gosh. I'm having a happy moment. I've been practicing for all of you, and so I'm so happy. Fantastic. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to just move this forward. And as I mentioned, you are all in different stages, and I know some of you here on this call, so I know some of you are at the very beginning. I know some of you have been slugging this out for a very long time, and I know how hard it can be when you don't have, ways to think about things differently and have resources, really, and knowledge to get you to that next level. So that's what I'm hoping to accomplish today. So let's go through. Aha! Great. Okay, so the key is that you're taking action. And as you can see, I love this graphic because it's the road to success, and it makes me smile when I see the dog in the back of the car that says, put your foot on the gas pedal. And it's really the process of the steps of this whole process of bringing a product to market. It's about studying your market, discovering great materials, protecting your idea, finding the money, which it's better now than ever before, and I can't wait to share some resources with you in that regard. Making the goods, how are you manufacturing this? Landing retail accounts, and which is also better than ever today than it's ever in the past, has happened in the past. Given when I started 10 years ago, it was really a different landscape than today. And broadcasting the news, and also so many fantastic tools that are cost-effective and efficient for helping you get the word out about your product. But it really comes back to taking action, and that's what you're doing today. So with regards to all of those steps, there are so many levels, and I usually spend an hour on each of those topics in the Power Mentoring program. I'm going to scratch the surface right now with these 5 different topic areas. They're all so important. I know we're not going to be covering patents and trademarks and safety testing and product liability and all of those other things here, but you certainly can ask me questions about them at the end if you want. But right now I'm going to just scratch the surface, and hopefully, even if you're far along in the process, there's going to be some nuggets that you're going to be able to use right away. Okay, let me see here. Good. Okay, so with market research, really the purpose of doing this is to determine if your product idea is a viable business. Many of us start out where we just have this idea, we share it with our friends and family, and we say, okay, great, I'm going to do it. And we jump right into how we're going to make it and get it out there, as opposed to taking just a little bit of time to figure out and understand your market. And oftentimes inventors look at one type of information, which is the big picture data, and then they think, well, that's good enough for me. And they skip the second part, which is just as important, or if not even more important. I'm going to talk about this just a little bit. So there's big picture data, and then there's specific data, which are surveys and interviews, and I'll talk about that in a second. The big picture data is you're really trying to get an understanding of what the market looks like. And you can get this type of information through census.gov. Who are you targeting? Some of the best resources for this type of information is through your trade industry reports. Sometimes they give it for free on their trade association websites. Sometimes it's for members only. Definitely worth taking a look at. So like JPMA is the Juvenile Products Manufacturing Association, which you'd want to do if you had a juvenile product. Housewares.org is if you have any type of housewares type item. American Pet Products for pets, and Pro Beauty for beauty supplies. And so if you don't see it here, you just Google whatever your product is plus industry, and it will bring up different associations that make sense for you. And it's definitely worth taking a look and seeing what information that they offer with regards to trends and about the stats, about about the markets that you're wanting to step into or you already are in. Another really fast way to find information is within quotation marks, put statistics plus, and then put in what your product type is. And you will see it can instantly bring up information that is very informative. In the next slide, I'll show you what I mean. Also, one of the kind of hidden jewels that many entrepreneurs don't take advantage of is that public companies are required to create investor reports. They're sometimes referred to as 10K reports, and they have to be public information. This is unbelievable in terms of the amount of information you can get about your industry and the trends. And these are experts who have had to put this information together, and you can take total advantage of this. One of the really good example, if you go to central.com after this webinar, they have two different types of products that they sell. They sell pet products and they sell garden products. And then you go down to their investor relations tab and you click on their 10K reports and you open them up. Look at the table of contents because these reports are very long, and find their market information. And I'm telling you, after I read about the trends for garden tools, it made me want to invent a garden tool because it's growing so rapidly. And they are talking forward in terms of, all the way into 2018 in terms of the increasing rates that people are out in their gardens. So take advantage of that great free resource. Also, ZoomInfo is a good one. Sometimes websites don't offer their corporate information, and you can type in whatever company you want into ZoomInfo and click on the corporate or business tab and type it in, and it will pop it right up with their address, phone number, and if you pay, you can get access to their the names of their vice presidents and president. But most of the time, I just go there to find their corporate information. So you can use that later in sales when you're trying to pitch these companies with your products. Now, going to specific data, this is when you're going to be creating your own surveys and interviews. And it's really where I imagine this big funnel of information where you have the big picture information and then you're funneling down into what do people really think about your product. I've had inventors come to me and believe that everyone in America is going to want their product, but the reality is that's not true. So the question is, who exactly is it, and what are they saying? What are they telling you? And this is something that you can find out with using surveys, something like SurveyMonkey, which you can do a survey for free if you have under 10 questions. And you can get information like 8 out of 10 said that they experienced the problem that your product solves. That's really important information. So worth definitely doing. Even if you're far along in this process, what I've often had is people go into business 2 or 3 years, and then they'll say, I don't know what went wrong. I don't understand why I'm having such a hard time. And it often comes back to not knowing who wants your product and where to find them. This is just a quick example of the big picture data. I was just blown away because I typed in statistics plus, and then I put the type of gadget, the pet gadget, because I had someone who was working on a pet product. Within a second, I received this up-to-date information from the National Pet Owners Association, and it was incredible. It was saying now 68% of U.S. households own a pet. That equates to 82.5 million homes. And let's say you had a product for dogs. You look down here, there's 56.7 million households with dogs. Now, this is where most inventors stop with their research. They say, whoa, 56.7 million households, if I get a tiny little percentage of that, a 0.5%, I'll be happy. And that's not good enough. That's where the mistake happens, because you may think, okay, there's millions of people, but the reality is, do people want your specific product? Is there a need? Okay, so really there are 5 key questions that you want to gather when you're doing your specific data, and it's, what problem is your product solving for consumers? What are the specific complaints online and in the market about the problem, and how common are they? Complaints are my favorite thing. When you go online and start searching for complaints, it is so exciting. You can do, by the way, in quotation marks, when you go into Google, complaints plus, and then put whatever your product type is. And you may have to play with the words a little bit, because the way you're describing your product may not be the most common way that other people are describing it. I had one person writing textiles and she wasn't coming up with anything, and then she switched it to apparel and she got tons of stuff. So just play with the words a little bit until you really narrow it down and get some complaints. But complaints are fantastic because you hear what people's issues are. You can jump onto these blog posts and say, wow, you know, I have that problem too. How are you solving it? Is there a product that you're currently using? Great way to start getting this type of feedback. How much money is being saved by using your product? That's a great piece of information to have. And are there environmental advantages? You know, buyers, I was at a buyers meeting, huge buyers meeting that they distribute to grocery stores nationwide, and they said, what do you have that's green? That was what they had. One of the questions, we're sitting at the table, what products do you have that's green? So know that it's not only good for the environment, but it has a sales advantage, plus consumers are looking for more green and organic products too. And there's so many awesome materials available as well, like recycled plastics and things that you can use like bamboo or other items that you would not normally think of. And then, does your product fall into a need category or nice to have category? Obviously, it's easier to sell things that are in the need category, but you can certainly successfully sell in the nice to have category. You just have to really figure out your angle for marketing and how you're going to entice people to want to have it turn into they've got to have it or want to have it. And that really comes into your marketing. Okay, just really quick, for those of you who are just starting out, there are different types. When I started out, I had no idea what these terms were, so I'm just going to quickly run through them. There are hard goods, soft goods, formulators, and then food products. So hard goods refer to any items that are made of plastic, wood, metal, or rubber, or something hard. Just think about it that way. Soft goods are items like fabrics, things that are cut and sewn, like bedding, curtains, handbags, plush toys, towels, that type of thing. Formulators are chemists, and they will help you come up with different solutions like household cleansers, hand sanitizers, even pet foods are formulated. Vitamins are formulated to make sure that they can stay and not spoil, and you have to make sure that you've got special packaging to help deal with this spoilage issue. And then, of course, there are recipes. One of the moms that's featured in the new Mom Inventor's Handbook has a spoonful of comfort, which is really interesting because she sends chicken soup all over the country. It never even occurred to her that there were going to be issues about sending chicken across state lines. So she has had to deal with hiring an expert to help her deal just with all of the state issues in terms of her product. So what does a prototype enable you to do? Prototypes are fantastic because it takes it out of your mind, which in your mind it usually works perfectly. It helps you test and refine the functionality of your design because usually it doesn't quite work like you planned, and so you've got to modify it. Also helps you test the performance of your materials. Be hard on your prototypes. If you've got a textile item, wash it 10 times and see if the materials fall apart or if they look great or just as good as when you first started. And they also help you communicate. It's hard to explain to someone about your product. Well, I have this idea that people are visual. As you can see from all the YouTube videos and everything we're doing visually, people need to see something. Now, if it's a very expensive item to make, you can do a graphic drawing of your product in order to explain it, like a 3D rendering. It doesn't have to be the full 3D rendering that an engineer does at this point. At the beginning stages, it can just be done, crafted by a graphic designer, which is a much cheaper way to do it at the beginning. And it makes your product real. It takes it out of your mind and actually puts it into a form that is real, so you can start to see it and visualize it. Okay, I'm switching now to funding. Like I said, I usually spend an hour on each of these topics, going very deep. But right now, I'm just going to talk briefly about funding because I'm so excited about it. Things have changed completely since when I started, and there are an abundance of opportunities for small businesses, and really the key is to know where to look for the money. And one of the big things you are probably very well aware of is crowdfunding. I just had someone I worked with who successfully completed a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, very exciting, just wanted to tell you that there's a difference between different crowdfunding sites, and there's contribution sites, which are where people make donations, and there are investment crowdfunding platforms where people get an equity stake, ownership in your business. I highly suggest that you do the contribution. You don't want people to have ownership of your business, and so definitely do contribution because it's not nearly as risky, and then people, they all donate what they feel comfortable donating, and they feel really good about being a part of it. Plus, what incredible market validation. You put your product out there for crowdfunding, everybody goes nuts and wild, you exceed your goal. That is incredible market validation that you're on target, that people want your product. One of the best ways to find out. If no one shows any interest, you're getting no funding whatsoever, that is a big red flag, and maybe you need to reconsider, which is why it's fantastic to go into this crowdfunding situation with a prototype as well, instead of doing like the full, you've already done a full manufacturing run and then you're crowdfunding. Instead, step back at the beginning and say, okay, let's just see what people think and if I can get some funding to pay for my first manufacturing run. All these different platforms exist, so make sure that your product is the right fit from the beginning. They're not all the same, and I'm not going to go into all the differences, but here they are here for you to go and take a look. Kickstarter is probably the most well-known. It was the first one. Indiegogo is getting rave reviews all over the world. Crowdfunder, Crowdsupply. Crowdsupply is interesting because they help inventors on the back end. They have a warehousing situation, so when you bring in the product, you can warehouse it, and they also become your first online retailer, so they help you sell it to get started. There's Fundable, there's Rocket Hub. Rocket Hub is interesting. They differentiated themselves, and then they have education. They teach you how to successfully do a crowdfunding campaign, which I think is great. They also have a partnership with A&E cable network, so if you successfully do a crowdfunding campaign, you can oftentimes get a news clip on the TV show. Other online funding sources, which you may or may not know about, like I said, I really wanted to give you something today so that you could walk away and say, okay, I grabbed this one piece of information, I'm going to take it and run. Kabbage is interesting. It is an online loan that is a higher percentage rate. And so, be cautious in doing this. However, if you have a purchase order, let's say, from a large retailer and you don't have the cash to do the manufacturing run, but you have the purchase order in hand, this is a great way to get quick cash in order to pay for your factory to produce it. And then, of course, you're going to be shipping it to the retailer, and then they'll pay you. So this is something, if you need the cash right away, to help support that process and to make your customer happy so that you're going to get repeat orders. Somo Lend is interesting, and they have partnered with banks basically to help you deal with just Somo Lend. They find you banks so that you don't have to be a part of that difficult process. Now, there are microloans, which are nonprofit organizations, which I think is an incredible resource that is underutilized. You may have heard of Kiva.org. They used to do loans only abroad. Now they're working back in the U.S. And the Kiva is like the crowdfunding, but it's through loans and not donations. But people only do $25 at a time, so it's low risk. TMC Working Solutions, I got a loan from them for $25,000 early on, and they made it so easy to do and kept checking up on me to see how I was doing. I mean, I was like, really? You're checking up on me? So it was like this. I'm finding that these micro lenders are much more supportive in helping you. They want you to succeed. Kiva has partnered with TMC Working Solutions, and they have a Kiva Step Ahead loan program, so you can check that out. Axion USA, been hearing great things about them, and they give loans to small business loans, for startups. That this is what's unusual about them. That you only have to be in business for only to 6 months. Usually with banks, it's 3 years and you have to show your financials. I mean, it's just, I'm amazed that that's all that they require. Opportunity Fund, I've heard great things about them, and they offer business loans for low-income entrepreneurs and who don't qualify for traditional loans. And so definitely check out these resources if you're needing some money. Okay, sales planning. Again, jumping to another topic that I usually spend tons of time on. And it's really, sales is, I mean, there's so much to talk about and so many opportunities through catalogs and e-tailers and daily deal websites and retailers. I mean, the list goes on today, and it is so much easier than in the past, just because all of these venues online, they're trying to differentiate themselves from the retail stores that you walk into, the brick and mortar stores, and much easier to contact buyers. And so, I mean, I can't tell you how exciting it is that sales are so much easier. So one of the things that many entrepreneurs do not do is they do not create sales goals and map it out. And usually it's just kind of this haphazard approach where you're just kind of sending it out an email here, sending out an email here. Listen, if you set goals, then you can see how you're doing. They're measurable, they're trackable. They help you be, if you're specific about your goals, it's going to help you so much because it's going to help you see what progress you're making. They should be realistic and attainable. So oftentimes I hear from people, they'll say, when they contact me, they say, okay, I want to sell 1 million units by Christmas. And I say, okay, wait a minute. Okay, so let's think about this. This is more of a dream, and yes, we all love that dream, but let's be realistic, because when you're realistic and pragmatic about it, that's when you can really make some fantastic progress. So your goals should be volume-based. How many units are you going to sell? Time-based, in what period of time, and broken down into manageable parts with dates. So sell 5 units to an end customer within 60 days. Put a date. Sell 100 units in 6 months to independent retailers in my state. Put a date. Something I have to say, if you do not attain your goal, do not be hard on yourself. That is just part of life and this process. I know it's a big juggling act that we're all doing. So just restate your goal, tweak it so it's more realistic. If selling 100 units was too big, sell it 50 units and then put a new date. But there's no point in being hard on yourself if you don't reach your goals. Just readjust your goals, recalibrate. Okay, and then again, jumping ahead to another topic is blowing your horn. Marketing and PR are so much fun. This is my favorite part of business. And they really are the golden tickets to your success, because if you have this awesome product and nobody knows about it or where to find it, then you're not going to sell anything. But now it's easier than ever with all of these online tools that are available that are really fun to do. And so I just wanted to say that if you're afraid to use these tools, you don't need to be. They are easier. When I started out, there were no online tools. It was so difficult. I mean, I was hiring agencies to create pages on websites, and now you've got these phenomenal tools that you can use right away to broadcast the news about your business. I'm going to talk to you about a few of them right here. First, in the next slide I will. First of all, if you are going to be making an announcement about your product. Now let's say you're already in business and you need to think of something creative to say to kind of light the fire underneath your product and come up with a press release that is exciting. Don't just say, today is the announcement of my product launch. But instead, you've got to switch it up and think of something creative to say that will interest people. Then what do you do with this press release? You write a press release, where do you send it? Okay, you need to find editors, producers, TV hosts to get excited about what you're doing. And it's not just the product, it's also your backstory. And I teach you in class in Power Mentoring Program how to create your different stories for your business. There are multiple stories for your business, but this is one place to look, is inside the flap of magazines. There's going to be a list of editors. Grab their names, and that's how you can get started, getting their names, and then you're going to be able to find them on social media through LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. You're going to be able to find these people. They're there. LinkedIn is incredible. Yesterday, I went on to LinkedIn. I typed in NBC producers, and a bunch of producers came up, two of whom I worked with directly just in my last trip, 3 weeks ago when I was on the Today Show. Two of those producers that I was communicating with are right there on LinkedIn. So get on there, get their names, and then when you're ready, you can send them your press release. Okay, and then also, when you see online stories, this is what I love, is online stories, the writers are right there too, and you can, oftentimes you can click right on their name and it will give you a way to communicate with them. If there isn't, take their name and pop it into LinkedIn, and take their name and go into Twitter and see if they come up, and usually they do, and then you can start communicating with them. So that's how you find these people, and then when you're ready, you want to broadcast the news, send them your press release, and send them a photo of your product. And in a minute, I'm going to talk to you about video. You're going to want to include a video in these messages. Now, let me just talk to you about some different options. This is my last slide, and then I'm going to go straight over to your questions. Okay, so video marketing is so much fun. Now, some of you may feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared to get in front of a camera. Well, there's a couple things here. One is direct-to-camera is a fantastic way. You saw I started out our session that way. That way you can see that I'm a human being and we're together and all this. It's a really nice way to connect with people. So I would suggest dabbling in it and trying out new things. All you need is a webcam on your computer. That's what I was just using when you saw my face at the beginning, or your smartphone. Your iPhone camera is perfect for this, or if you have a video camera, you can certainly use your video camera as well. Then you can do other direct-to-camera fun things, like VideoStir is very cool. You can go to videostir.com for free. You can videotape yourself walking out and saying a few words to the people, hey, welcome to my website, or hey, wanted to introduce you to my product. I'm so excited to show you my blankety blank. And then you can put that right onto your web page, and you are walking out onto the front of your web page. So if you can't visualize that right now, since I can't show it to you right this second, go to VideoStir after this webinar, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. It's really fun. Google Hangouts is what I'm using right now. I'm using Webinar Jam, but they are using Google Hangouts. So that's what I'm using right now. There's a program called Uvu, which is similar to this, to Google Hangouts. iMovie is great because you can edit your videos before you post them on YouTube or wherever, or on your website. And you can also record things on Skype. Okay, hands down, the most important thing to do is to create a live demo video of your product. And it is one of the most effective ways to get people excited. Now, this is where, if we're talking about sales, I just had one of my mentoring students just land a huge retail account. You may have seen that. I just posted it yesterday on Facebook because I was so excited for her. And we talked about crafting her message for buyers. And I said, you've got to include a video demonstrating your product, which she did. And she got a meeting from that one email message, flew out there, met with them, and now they're going to distribute her product nationwide, huge retail store. So I'm so excited. So video works. You're going to want product demonstrations, definitely, and post them everywhere, not just in your emails to buyers, but to prospective investors, on Facebook, YouTube, your website, everywhere you can think of to get people watching how your product works. If you want to do it differently, you may have seen I have a video on my Tamara Monosoff /mentoring. There's a video there that is a photo montage. That is where I use Animoto, and Animoto.com, it's simple. You just take all these different photos and your text and put some music, and it puts together your piece as if it's a video. And then there's Video Scribe, which is a lot of fun. You can create videos, and it looks like your hand is writing out the message to the viewer. So you can check that out as well. A sales video is nothing more than your other videos that you've created, but you've put a button that links to your shopping cart. That's just what a sales video is. No matter what type of video you create, I want you to put a call to action at the end. Tell people what you want them to do. Do you want them to buy your product? Do you want them to visit your website? Do you want them to go and like your Facebook page? What are you asking them to do? So make sure that you're clear about that at the end. Video testimonials are powerful, and you can include those on the sales page. If somebody is raving about your product, ask them to please just post a quick little video. They can use their webcam or iPhone and email you the video. And then something I just discovered yesterday, which is so cool, is called VSnap. This is the perfect thing to send a thank you to a buyer meeting or a quick video. You know, you can do your I could actually do your product demo video through VSnap also. The only difference is you only have 60 seconds. So it's usually just use, hey, thanks so much for this our great meeting, and I'm looking forward to working with you, or whatever you want to say. But it's a quick little tool that I just think is really cool, and it makes you want to click on the video when you get these messages. So with that said, I'm going to open things up to questions, and I would love for you, you're going to have to put them into the chat box, and I would, you know, they can really be about anything that we've talked about. Just really quickly, before we jump off, your bonus for today is I'm sending you, after this ends, our webinar ends, I'm selling you tips for selling to retailers. It's a great document that I put together. Basically, how do you find these retailers, and then what do you need to prepare before you contact them? And so you don't want to contact them until you're totally ready. And then what happens when you call them? What are the steps? And I have a script for you so you can practice and feel comfortable, and then how you need to follow up with them and what needs to go into your thank you note in terms of following up, so that you can go full circle in that process in terms of reaching out to retail buyers. So I'm really excited to give you that today. Also, just wanted to let you know that I have recorded the Power Mentoring 2 program in depth. Every single session of the Power Mentoring program has been recorded so that you can go at your own pace, and you can definitely go in there at any time 24/7, re-listen to the videos over and over. I send you a copy of the Mom Inventor's Handbook, the new one, and I've printed copies of the Ultimate Product Launch Workbook. This workbook goes along and follows the video, so you can keep your notes all organized in one place so you weren't having to go back and forth. That was feedback from one of my students. They wanted an actual workbook in their hands to keep everything organized. So just let you know, it's $200 off if you want to purchase the class during this webinar. You can go ahead and do that. In the meantime, I am right here ready to answer your questions. Okay, let me see if I can get control of the chat box. One quick second. Sorry, guys. Like I said, this is new system, and I'm trying to just give me a second with this webinar jam because my mouse is like going crazy. I see. Okay, Amy, how do you determine whether you should sell direct to consumer versus selling simultaneously through to retail? Okay, and when do you start? Okay, well, that's a great question, and sorry, I'll finish the question. When do you start determining the right time to start selling through retail? Okay, great question. So usually you start selling on your own, right? You're just finished producing your product, and you go ahead and you post it on your website. You start telling people about it, and you start to see how things are going. You're listening to feedback, and then you can go to trade shows that are just, I didn't know this when I started out, by the way. There are trade shows that are direct to consumer, where your shoppers go straight to the show, or there are trade shows that are retail stores. So you can choose what you want to do. Now, it takes a long time to get sales traction when you are selling one item at a time to your end consumers. When you start selling to stores, you're selling larger quantities. And usually it's good to start locally because they want to support local entrepreneurs. So go into your local store and say, hey, I'm a local entrepreneur. Would you be willing to take 6 units? And if they say, no, I don't think so, we'll say, hey, how about on consignment? Take 6 units on consignment. If you sell them, you get to keep the money, but the promise is that you'll reorder from me, or do what's comfortable for you. But that is a great way to get your foot in the door. There are also fantastic local purchase programs. So if your product makes sense for a Walmart or a Sam's Club, and you definitely want to get some sales traction first before you go to Walmart or Sam's Club. But let's say your item is a perfect fit for those big box stores. They offer local purchase programs. Even Whole Foods offers a local purchase program. I had lots of people enter in that way through these local programs. I did it myself through Walmart. What's interesting about Walmart is they've given their regional managers the power to test things locally. And then if it's successful, the regional managers can go to Arkansas and make a pitch to the corporate office. So keep these things in mind. But to answer your question, you usually start small, start selling it on your own. Then you can start dabbling in with your local stores. You can do trade shows, you can do trade fairs, and then start trying to get the bigger accounts. I started mine at the very beginning. I went to a trade show that was selling wholesale to retailers, and from that first trade show I landed accounts in 50 stores nationwide. So you can see that if you sell wholesale to retailers, you can grow a lot more quickly. Okay, so let me see here, guys. If I can go back here, what I'm hoping is that I can, now you're seeing me, I'm like trying to make this all work. I'm trying to get control of the chat box so I can see all your questions, and that's what I'm aha, I think I have got it. Okay, okay, Shay, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. What trade shows are direct to buyer for coffee? That you're gonna have to go type into Google and type Coffee Association, or you could also type in produce, or not produce, grocery store associations. Go in there and try to just start going into Google to see what makes sense, and put coffee in there. It'll pop up. You're going to be able to find an association that is dealing with coffee. And it is Shay. Okay, great. And then, let me see. Okay. Okay, right here, I realize we didn't, but do you have any recommendations on ways to start finding manufacturers overseas? I have a prototype but stuck there. Hi, Justine. Yes, I do. There are, when we go into all that in the Power Mentoring Program, you can also get the Mom Inventor's Handbook, the new edition. I've listed manufacturers both here in the U.S. and overseas. And those, by the way, were recommended by the entrepreneurs that are featured in the book. So there are manufacturers that are currently being used, so they're trusted resources. Great place to get started. I know that otherwise it's really scary when you're just stabbing in the dark trying to figure out who to use. So definitely pick up a copy and look at the list of resources for getting started, but those are trusted resources, and one of the really nice things that those entrepreneurs shared who they're working with. Okay, and let me just go down. Randy, how effective is direct mail postcards, sell sheets with letter and envelope, worth it or not? That's a great question. It depends. I try to do everything digitally. Right now, there are so many fun tools, like I just mentioned today, where you could create these quick video messages, and then you can get the names of buyers by going to LinkedIn, finding the buyers and then sending them this quick little message with a picture of your product, a quick little video, an enticing subject heading that makes them want to click and watch your video message. Keep these messages really short, under 2 minutes for sure, and see if that works for you first. I have had Annette Giacomosi. She was one of my mentoring students. She did have a successful campaign using postcards. She used a company called Think Shapes, and Think Shapes Mail and you can do these fun shapes. And she has cast covers, which cover your casts when you break an arm or a leg. And so she did a direct mail specifically. She bought a list of orthopedic surgeons in the United States, and she did that direct targeted mail with these fun postcards that were in the shape of a broken arm, but they had this cool cast cover on it, and she got a huge response. So it really depends if you can narrow your list down specifically and get a super targeted, focused list, and then you can put those out. I sent sales rep. I was doing my first trade show. I sent out 300 postcards to sales reps. Nada. Nothing happened because my product wasn't established yet. Sales reps weren't interested. They become interested when you're already successfully selling your product. And so it wasn't until a couple years later that they were knocking down my door, but when I sent out postcards to them initially, they had no interest. So you really need to gauge who you're sending your postcards to, so they can be effective, but it really depends. I hope I answered your question. Okay. Okay, Johnny, I'm seeing your message, but for some reason it got cut off, Johnny, about the profit margin program you used on my video. I'd like to use. Okay, I don't. Is there a rest? Write me a longer message. I don't know if it just got cut off or what, and I'm happy to talk to you about that. Okay, Amy, how do you determine whether? Okay, I've already answered that. Okay, any other questions coming in? Oh, Shay just said the margin calculator is the best. Awesome, Shay. I'm so excited you're using it. Fantastic. And yes, Shay just said there are a lot of manufacturers in the book. We put tons in. Carrie, okay, who do you ask? Hey, Carrie, how are you? Carrie's, who do you ask to discuss local purchase order program when you walk into the local retail stores? Apple, I don't know. Apple has a local purchase order program. I don't know what Apple has. I do know that Sam's Club and Julie Martin Allen, who is the woman who wrote the foreword of the new Mom Inventor's Handbook, she is in charge of that program. And if you go, in fact, it's right here. It's called Showcase Events. I'm looking right here at the cover, right here. Julie Martin Allen's Showcase Events. So if you go and you look at Sam's Club Showcase Events, they have these different events that you can go and present your product at. So you can go do that. With regards to Walmart, what I did is I just walked in to Walmart and I asked to speak to the regional manager. And that is how that whole ball started with them. And we did a local test. And I ended up doing a test in the 6 stores in that region. And I had to go around. It was not easy, but I had to go around and get the signature of each regional manager at each one of those stores in order to do the test in the region. But you can just go into the store and ask. I'm hoping that I'm answering your question. And also you can go like Walmart, you can just type in Whole Foods, type in Whole Foods local purchase program. They're really reaching out to entrepreneurs. This time is really better than ever. Okay, any other questions? Amy, I'm having trouble getting a ballpark on how much more manufacturing domestically costs than China. Can you shed some insight? Loaded costs included taxes, duty. I know. Trust me, I know. Let me see. Let me keep reading. I prefer to avoid, okay. Okay, well, it depends. Oh, sorry. It just jolted my camera. It depends on your product. I have people who are creating products in the U.S. who have textile items, and those are really inexpensive to make. So they've been able to figure out how to do that cost effectively in the U.S. If you have a product that's made out of plastic and metal, it's expensive. My products are all plastic products. I've had to have steel molds made for everything. And it was impossible to pay for the cost in the U.S. It just was. So what I did is I hired everybody in the U.S. that I could. So I worked with the designers of the product, the engineers for the products in the U.S. So I had my CAD drawings done here. I had my graphic designers for the packaging, had it done here, and my lawyers, my business, anything to do with the business, I had as much as I could here. But then I had to find a factory and then send those files over to overseas, because otherwise I would not have been able to go into business at all. So you have to just make those hard choices. It seems scary to deal with taxes and duty and freight forwarding. I understand that. Once you do it, and I explain how to do all that, by the way, in the book, in the Power Mentoring programs, I walk you through the steps. I teach you how to do that. But once you go through it once, you know how to do it, right? It's like with anything else. So it seems scary and overwhelming at the beginning, but then now once you go through it one time and you have more shipments coming in, you just know how to deal with it at that point. And so I hope that I answered that. I wish I could say that we could do everything here in the U.S. It just depends on your product type, and sometimes it's impossible because of the costs. Oh, great. Thanks, Justine. She just got a copy of the book. Okay, good. Do you have a previous sales for local store programs? Do you have previous sales for local store programs? I'm not sure I'm understanding your question, Keisha, but what you want to do is just contact Walmart. Now listen, everyone, I know we've all got Walmart on our brains, thinking Sam's Club, millions of units. I don't know where you are in the process, but they are going to expect you to show proof of successful sales. So you want to do that first. And so one of the things that I find really fascinating are these daily deal websites. And I have had so many entrepreneurs recently that I've worked with successfully selling on these daily deal websites. When I'm saying daily deal websites, I'm talking about things like kidsteals.com, thegrommet.com, Zulily.com. These are daily deal websites where you may not make tons of money. You have to figure out the numbers and make sure that you're not losing money from the deal. But the advantage is you get these huge sales. One of my students from the last class, she sold 300 units in 3 hours of her product. She was then able to take that information and put that in the first sentence to the big box buyer that she just recently contacted, saying that she blew through these 300 units in 3 hours. Well, see, you want to show that. That's what buyers want to hear. So you want to make sure to not just go straight to Walmart. You want to make sure that you're getting the sales traction, and one of the most interesting ways to do that is through these daily deal websites, and then you're going to have some traction to show. Plus, these daily deal websites, it's more than about the sales. It's incredible marketing. They're sending it out to their millions of followers, the people that are buying the products that are on their list. So suddenly you're getting tons of exposure, and you're able then to also take those links and send it all over social media, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and tell everybody about the sale to help generate that type of success that you can have. So again, think about starting smaller and using some of these new venues today, which are so exciting. And don't forget about catalogs, because catalogs are golden. I know I've said this here. Some of my students are on here, but they are. And that's where I got my first order for $100,000, because it was a catalog I'd never even heard of. It's called LTD Commodities. Who knew? I had no idea. So, and there are so many catalogs that are available for you to sell, all different types. So anyway, just want to throw that out there. Jessica, is it realistic to think I could get a licensing deal with only a prototype? Licensing deals, and by the way, I cover that in the Power Mentoring. We spent an hour talking about licensing, what to expect, what an agreement looks like, and how to prepare for that. It is very difficult at that stage to get a licensing deal. And when you're getting a licensing deal, you're going to need some sort of protection when you're contacting people. When I teach about patenting, as my students know already, that patenting, it can be a useful tool. I oftentimes don't even recommend it because people can design around your patents. However, when you're licensing, you need to have some sort of some sort of intellectual property that you are going to be able to offer to your prospective licensing partner as an asset. They're not going to want to take something on that has no protection. So showing them a prototype, you know, have there been cases of success? Yes, okay, but very few. I mean, the number is so much smaller. What a licensing partner wants you to say, I am blowing through so many units. I am selling these things so fast. This is growing so quickly that I am ready to pass on the baton. It's taking over my life, and they want to see that you've had sales success. That is the quickest way to getting a licensing deal. Now, if you absolutely do not want to go into business and produce your product, you will want to get some patent protection, and then yes, you could show your prototype. So really, it's your own choice, and I'm not suggesting that you go and start manufacturing if that's really not what you want to do. Definitely not. A prototype should work, but you, like I said, you have to have some patent protection. I hope I answered your question. Okay, Karen, how do we learn about these catalogs? Okay, catalogs, you can go to catalogmonster.com, just catalogs.com. I also offer, I think, I'm not sure, Karen, if you have the list already, but if you go to tamaramonosoff.com/books, I offer a list of catalogs where I have gathered the corporate information, their telephone numbers, and as many LinkedIn contacts as possible. It took tons of hours to put this together, but my goal was to help you achieve things much more quickly. These were the lists that I wanted so badly myself. So I have a catalogs list, and I have a retail list that are invaluable and are reasonably priced at tamaramonosoff.com/books. And so you can pick those up there, or just start searching online. It takes longer because you're doing it one at a time, but go to catalogmonster.com and see, and you just type in the type of product and it brings up all different catalogs. So I hope that helps. Oh good. Oh good, Jessica, your patent pending. Fantastic. Okay, now Amy, some manufacturers offer free engineering services. Should I use third-party engineer or the manufacturer's engineer? I have my own industrial designer. You know, everybody's set up differently, so you just want to be really clear on what that means, like who owns it. So if your manufacturer is going to be handling that aspect, are they thinking if they're making modifications and tweaks, are they like now part owner of the product? Get really clear about the terms when you're working with any of these partners. I tend to use initially an independent engineer. I would get the CAD drawings and I would forward those CAD drawings to my factory in China. Then what ended up happening is I created such a good, solid relationship with my factory that they started to make suggestions themselves, and I just said, listen, I need to remain 100% owner of any of this, and they said, yes, it's fine. And I was able then to, honestly, I was able at a certain point to just do hand sketches. I think Carrie may know this story already, but one of the funniest things is when I was doing Good Bites crustless sandwich cutters, on my third design, I took a piece of bread, I drew a heart, and I scanned it and sent it to my factory, and they were able to just create the design based on how I did my other, they based it on my other 3D drawings. So because they were now used to what I was looking for, the quality, the materials. So if you get to that point where you create this really good, solid relationship, then they can start helping you with the engineering. But just make sure that you know who owns what, and that also, by the way, get it in writing that you're 100% owner of the steel mold. Because if things go sour with your relationship, that your factory is just not doing what you need them to do, that's your asset. You don't want to have to recreate a mold. So get it in writing so that you can have that mold transferred to another factory should there be any issues. And another thing, I know I'm like, there's so much to cover, I know, but also make sure that you get it in writing that they are not allowed to sell your product ever ever, period. Like, you are only the one who can sell your product. I had someone tell me that they were shocked when they went to their factory's website and suddenly their factory was selling their product without the consent of the inventor. So this is another thing you need to get in writing. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you. I've been working with China for years. Most of the factories that I've dealt with have been very honest. They want to make money, and so they're not interested in scamming you or anything like that. what you need to do on your end is to make sure that you're asking all the right questions and that you're making sure that all your bases are covered and that you have an agreement in place. And again, I go into minute detail in the Power Mentoring 2 program where we cover all the questions you need to be asking to make sure that you're covered. Okay, so I know we've got 1 minute. These are all excellent questions. And let me just see if there's any last one. I think I've got it. Is anyone else? One last question. I think I've been able to answer them all. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I am delighted that you're here. I hope that you're able to get one nugget of information that you can use. If you're interested in the Power Mentoring 2 program, you can send me an email. If you're interested in the live program, it starts June 2nd. You can send me an email at tamara@tamaramonosoff.com. I can just type it right into this is my direct email, and you can just send me a message and let me know if you would be interested in that program. I can answer any of your questions. There it is right there. And if you want to get $200 off and get the full Power Mentoring 2 already pre-recorded, it's got all these in-depth videos, go ahead and get that, and then I send you the workbook and the book for free shipping, priority mail. And if you just want to go on and take what you learned, keep forging on. I know this is a big journey, but you can absolutely do this. And so thank you so much for joining me today.